A very good morning to everybody. I'll be talking on non-surgical management of strabismus. Non-surgical management aims to preserve the sensory function in terms of best-corrected visual acuity, binocularity, stereopsis, and avoid diplopia, or to preserve motor functions so as to avoid contractures and then fall out of that as restrictions. Treatment options are spectacles, glasses, and prisms, or maybe contact lenses, orthoptic exercises, prisms, and their various drugs. So I'll start with spectacles and glasses, most commonly used for concomitant strabismus. The common forms of concomitant strabismus where the glasses are used are accommodative, esotropia, intermittent exotropia, and consecutive strabismus. For accommodative esotropia, one should have proper cycloplegic refraction. One should not hesitate to use atropine or hometropine for children. And one should prescribe glasses properly. Either it is appropriate or sometimes we may even give an over or under corrections. And sometimes the glasses may even cause slight blurring of image. Now, this is a case of accommodative esotropia. A child of 6 months of age smiles and accommodates when he is shown a toy, revealing esotropia and Bruckner's reflex. All that he needs is probably a pair of glasses. Another case, a correction of glasses with squint, a case of fully accommodative esotropia. Just by giving glasses, and the game is not yet over, our motive is to relax accommodation, and also we should check for the fitting of glasses. In both these children, the glasses are running down the nose, and the children are looking over the glasses. This is a case where the glasses are too tight fitting. We can see anterior movement of the pinna, and there is a scratch mark on the temple of the patient. This is what is the proper fitting of the glasses in the terms of size and fitting of the glasses. Also look for the AC by A ratio, which is accommodative convergence to accommodation ratio. High AC by A ratio can be a problem with accommodative esotropia, and it can be beneficial in intermittent exotropia. But one has to rule out simulated divergence excess or tenacious proximal fusion to use this high AC by ratio in case of intermittent exotropia. Now, this is a case of accommodative esotropia with high AC by ratio, which is managed by bifocals. We can clearly see the child is still aligned while reading. Pilocarpine can also be used alternatively in case of accommodative esotropias with high AC by ratio. A case of intermittent exotropia with high AC by ratio, which is controlled with glasses. One has to make sure that the deviation is corrected and maintained. The BS3 is maintained even for distance. Prisms, they can only be used for small angles of deviation. For normal prisms, we can use 7 to 8 prism diopters in each eye. Fresnel can be up to 25 to 30. It can be also used for post-surgical over and under correction to avoid diplopia and to preserve binocularity, and it may be also used to support poor convergence. Temporarily, when we are waiting for the nerve palsy to recover, surgical overcorrections, we are waiting for the slow drift post-surgery, and permanent when they are traumatic of restrictive strabismus or a partially recovered 6 nerve palsy, or long-term when we are talking about over and under corrections. Now, this is a case, a 14-year-old boy with exotropia undergoes a surgery for right eye, develops consecutive esotropia and diplopia. All that he needs prisms to wait for drift, or we may have to go in and reoperate the patient. A case of fracture of the roof of orbit with superior rectus entrapment and injury, this patient was managed with vertical prisms. We prefer to give base up rather than base down because there can be a problem with the down gaze. Orthoptic exercises, they work best with small angle exo and axonotic symptoms. We can use synaptophore or home convergence exercises in terms of pencil push-ups or simple home orthoptic trainer. Patching, a very important part of amblyopia therapy. It may be full-time or part-time. This is the correct way of patching on the face of the patient rather than the glasses. And there are various nomograms one can practice. This is also used to avoid diplopia and paralytic strabismus, restrictive strabismus, and post-surgery. The patching of better eye can be a part of conventional amblyopia therapy or nerve palsies. This can be done while watching TV or sedentary work, but there can be problems of pass pointing, and patching the reverse eye can be done for nerve palsies or a part of inverse occlusion therapy for amblyopia, which is not done these days. This is a case of third nerve palsy post-herpes zoster ophthalmicus. Patching in the early phase, the patient fully recovers after 6 months. A case of post-traumatic 6 nerve palsy managed in the initial phase by patching. Now, Botox, this is a case of 6 nerve palsy in the left eye post-diabetic, undergoes a Botox injection. We can see the alignment, which can help us in preventing contracture of the medial rectus. In neuromuscular junction disorders like myasthenia, there is a hallmark of variable squint. This is a case of acquired double elevator palsy, which is getting better with neostigmine test. The treatment here is oral mestinon or pyridostigmine. In my practice, what I do is eyes test and give the patient a drug trial rather than going for tensilon or a neostigmine test. Inflammatory disorders can also present with double vision. This is a case who is having a double elevator palsy, acquired double elevator palsy. We can clearly see the left eye is not going up. On B-scan and neuroimaging, we can see there is a cyst with a scolex, probably it's a cysticercus. All that is given is albendazole and steroids. The DEP is better, but there is a residual up gaze deficit and limitation limited elevation. Another case which is presenting with right divergent squint and associated adduction deficit of the right eye. And there is a cyst here in the lateral canthus. Probably it's again a cysticercus. She also undergoes albendazole and steroid. The cyst disappears, the squint is corrected, but there is some amount of adduction limitation in the right eye. So close observation, careful examination is the key to success for non-surgical management of strabismus. Thank you.